Welcome to the December 12th, 2023 City Council meeting. Please stand for the invocation by Councilmember Wilder, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Amen. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for Lynchburg City Council, the work we're doing in our community. Thank you for our citizens and our staff members and employees. Continue to give us wisdom and guidance as we lead this city. Bless our citizens, and we come against any hatred and crime. We come against negativity. We speak peace and unity during this time of Christmas, time of joy, time of love. We spread that love throughout our community. In your precious name we pray, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have a very special recognition tonight. The 2023 Liberty University football team finished the regular season with a perfect 12-0 record. Liberty is the first FBS team in the history of the Commonwealth of Virginia to post a perfect 12-0 record and move to a 13-0 following a win over New Mexico State in the 2023 Conference USA Championship, all in the Flames' first season as members of Conference USA. Liberty was selected to play in this year's VRBO Fiesta Bowl against number 8 Oregon in Glendale, Arizona on January 1st of 2024. This is Liberty's first ever New Year's Six Bowl game appearance. Liberty is playing in its 5th straight bowl game, the longest streak of any FBS program in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and is one of only 4 remaining undefeated FBS teams in the country, joining Florida State, Michigan, and Washington. Liberty currently ranks number 1 in the country in rushing offense and number 1 nationally in interceptions. While our players are hard at work preparing for exams and their next big game tonight, we are extremely honored to have Liberty's president, Dr. Don DeCostin, head coach Jamie Chadwell, assistant athletic director Brad McQueen, and director of government and community relations Kenny Craig. They're with us this evening, and I would like to invite you all up to the dais to be recognized. Well, I would love for you to say a few words, if you don't mind. If you take it, go up to the podium.
Am I facing you or them?
Us, please.
Us.
And then we'll get a picture at the end. That's okay? Yeah.
First of all, let me say what an honor this is. Anytime that you have the opportunity to be in front of a chamber, it's a special day. And I'm very appreciative of President Costin and Ian McCall, athletic director in our university, for the opportunity that they gave us to have an opportunity to do history this year at Liberty. I told our team at the very beginning of August that we had a chance to make history. It could be good or bad, but we had a chance to make it. To be sitting here 13-0 to represent this wonderful community that we call home, to represent our wonderful university, and represent this great state of Virginia is an honor that I'm thankful for. We're thankful for you recognizing the hard work that our players put in. And we're not done yet. And so I hope this becomes yearly. So that'd be great. So God bless y'all, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I certainly can't say it any better than that, but I'll just echo the fact that how grateful we are that we are part of Lynchburg and that you have recognized us tonight. Our student athletes, I wish they all could be here so you could see their excitement and enthusiasm, and we look forward to seeing what the good Lord does through his Champions for Christ on January 1st. I could say that actually this past weekend, LCA became the only private school in the history of Virginia to win a state championship. Yes. And so actually we're 27-0 in football this year. So it's been a great year, and so glory be to God, and thanks be to all of you. So thanks so much. We appreciate it a lot. Yeah. You guys want to come?
Thank you.
Good luck. Crush it.
Okay, we have another recognition. In attendance tonight, we have a very special guest, Miss Emily Asbury. You stand? Yes. Co-Secretary of the Mayor's Youth Council is joining us. Emily is a junior at EC Glass, and this is her second year with the Mayor's Youth Council. We're happy that you're joining us tonight, Emily. Council members, I would just like to ask you that, or let you know that Councilmember Taylor has asked us to amend the agenda under public comment and add Mr. Ed McCann from the Kiwanis Club as a speaker. Is that okay with y'all by consensus? Okay, so Mr. Ed McCann, you will be added as a speaker for our public comment section. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on. Consent agenda. Tonight's City Council agenda is divided into 4 sections: consent agenda, public hearing, public comment, and general business. The first section is the consent agenda. This section includes the routine items, and all items may be approved by one vote. May I have a motion on the consent agenda? So moved. Okay, may I have a second?
Second.
Okay, please vote.
The motion passes 7-0.
Okay. Next section is public hearing. This section includes all public hearings as required by law or as council may direct. Procedure. Staff will make a presentation. Comments will then be solicited from the public. An individual speaker shall have 3 minutes to speak. If the speaker represents a group, the speaker shall have 5 minutes. A speaker representing a group shall identify that group at the beginning of his or her remarks, and a group may only have one spokesperson. Each speaker shall clearly state his or her name and locality of residence. Upon the conclusion of public comments, the public hearing will be closed and the matter referred to council for deliberation. Consideration of adopting a resolution granting a conditional use permit to allow the use of an existing structure at 805 15th Street as a child care facility. Staff will provide a brief summary of the request. Ms. Rachel Fresheisen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council. The purpose of this petition is to allow the use of an existing structure at 805 15th Street as a child care center. The property is zoned R2, low-medium density residential district. Child care facilities are permitted in this district upon approval of a conditional use permit from council. The subject property at 805 15th Street contains approximately 43/100ths of an acre. The petition is supported by the comprehensive plan and the Diamond Hill Neighborhood Plan draft. During the neighborhood planning process, stakeholders and residents have expressed strong support for the expansion of early childhood care and education opportunities in the neighborhood. The draft recommendations of the plan, including supporting Diamond Hill's neighborhood churches, schools, and community centers to expand their services as anchoring institutions, specifically including early childhood care and education services. Planning Commission recommended approval of this petition at their meeting on October 25th, and I will be happy to answer any questions after the public hearing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Would the petitioner like to make a presentation?
Good evening to the members of City Council. I'm Owen Cardwell, pastor of Diamond Hill Baptist Church, and we are the owners of the property listed at 805 15th Street. We're partnering with Lynchburg's Head Start to do this child care center. We're told that over 2,000 children are in need of child care in the city. This is just a a small dent, but it's a movement in that direction. And so we hope that we'll get your approval tonight so that we can move forward with providing quality child care.
Thank you very much. If we have any questions, we'll call you back up.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor? Anyone here who would like to speak in opposition? Any voicemails from citizens? Okay. The public hearing is now closed and the matters rest with council. Okay, I need
Madam Mayor.
Councilman Dolan?
I have a conflict in as much as I'm on the board of Lynchburg. However, I feel like I can make a vote for this and make this decision because I'm not benefiting individually.
Okay, great. Would you like to speak to your motion?
I think this is great. I think, especially in communities, having additional childcare where we can, take care of the needs in that specific community. Like, I know you said it's a small dent, but a small dent is a small dent in the right direction. There's definitely a need in our city for affordable, quality childcare, and I think that it's a great thing. So I'm excited to approve this.
Thank you. Okay, I'm not sure who seconded, I'm sorry. Okay, Councilman Helgeson?
And I second it because I think this is, business is coming forward saying we can use this property to solve a need and solve a problem. I think it's a good use of property, and I'll gladly support it.
Vice Mayor Feroldi?
It's been 3.5 years. I think it's the first time I've ever actually had to make a disclosure. But I am technically on the board of LNCAG, though I do operate with a proxy to serve in my place. So with that in mind, I don't believe I have a conflict, but did want to disclose it just to be safe.
Dr. Wilder?
Support the measure. I think it's so important for our faith community to be active in the community. And Dame has done some great things in our community at some of our schools and various other programs they're doing. And I apologize for my voice. It sounds horrible. But again, I want to commend them for the work they do in the community and totally support this measure. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Taylor?
I think it's a good thing. Building in the lives of young people. And coming from Dr. Caldwell and all, I know they'll be taught the right things.
I agree. I think it's a great idea, and I know it's a need in that that part of the city for good quality child care. It's a great location. I know the building is a good spot and it's in good shape, so I totally agree and support. So I think we can just go ahead and vote.
The motion passes 7-0.
All right, moving on. Consideration of adopting an ordinance to change a certain area located at 602 Taylor Street and 1212 Park Avenue from B4 Urban Commercial to B5 General Business District. Staff will provide a brief summary of the request. Ms. Rachel Fresheisen.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council. The purpose of the petition is to rezone these properties from B4 Urban Commercial District to B5 General Business District to allow the use of the properties for used automobile sales. The subject properties consist of approximately 495,000 acres located at 602 Taylor Street and 1212 Park Avenue. The properties are included in the area covered by our 5th Street Corridor Master Plan, which is adopted by City Council on May 23, 2006. Our future land use map recommends a neighborhood commercial use for these properties, which front on Park Avenue. These areas are intended to consist primarily of office, retail, personal service, and restaurant-type uses that are scaled and designed to be compatible with and serve their immediate neighborhood. The plan articulated uses that are scaled and designed to be compatible with the immediate neighborhood. That vision really being one that the commercial in the area would support the neighborhood, the needs of the neighborhood, and provide essential goods and services to that surrounding area. The current B4 zoning reflects that vision and was put into place as a conscious decision to move away from those more intense commercial uses that were not compatible with the adjacent single-family homes and that vision of a more vibrant commercial area that meets day-to-day needs of the residents. Planning Commission recommended denial of this petition at their meeting on October 25th, recognizing that the petition does not align with the recommendations of the future land use map, the comprehensive plan, and the 5th Street Corridor Master Plan. The commission also expressed concern for setting precedents for auto-oriented uses which had previously impacted Fifth Street negatively and the adjoining neighborhoods. Thank you. Again, I'll be happy to answer any questions after the public hearing.
Okay, thank you so much. Would the petitioner like to make a presentation?
Good evening. My name is Amy Sipe with AccuPoint Surveying and Design. We're the technical advisor on the project, and with me is Hunter Dawson, who is the owner of the property. This property has been used in this fashion for many, many years, and Hunter will speak about that. But we do feel that the use is an outreach to the neighborhood. We have several of the neighborhood members here, and so while it is auto use, and I know that historically in that area, dating back to the 40s and 50s, it was quite dense. The climate that we're in commercially, we've seen auto businesses more heavily in wide open areas with large sales lots. So I'll let Hunter continue with that thought. So go right ahead.
Perfect. I'll try to be as brief as possible. First, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for having us tonight. I've been in Lynchburg for 10 years now. I went to Liberty and got my Juris Doctorate degree, so go Flames. We hope they bring it home from Arizona. I'm very proud of them. I own a bonding company. I've owned it for 7 years in Lynchburg. I also own 9 properties in Lynchburg, and they're all in downtown. And as far as the dealership, this property, the history of it, it goes back to 1900. This property, the two buildings were built for this. All the parking, everything's set up for a dealership, and that's how it was ran for all of these decades. The owner that I purchased it from earlier this spring, his name is Mr. Cecil Thacker. He just turned 90 years old this year, so he finally decided to give up the reins, to pass the baton, and he was happy to do it to a Liberty graduate because he knew what the inspiration was, and we explained we wanted to continue on with the dealership. The place is neat as a pin. I don't know if you guys have been by there. We're super excited. A little bit about the property or surrounding it. Right beside us, Sunbeam LLC bought the large building, and that building is right across the street. It's about 20 feet from my property line. It is zone B5 currently, and you can sell auto sale. You can sell cars right there. The city water plant is across in front of us, across the street. Mervyn Auto Repairs is on the other side, so we're surrounded by those properties. And we're not right on 5th Street. We do understand the 5th Street corridor, but we are like 2 blocks up, and we're surrounded by that. And the big property is 1218 Park Avenue that is on B5 right beside us. Our goal is very simple. We want to bring, as the daycare, I thought that was awesome. We want to bring quality cars to this city that are affordable so the city can purchase those, and it's downtown. And we love downtown. We think you guys are doing a great job down by the river. We want to continue that as we get up the hill. I'm here for any questions, if you guys have any questions.
Okay, well, we will call you back up if we have any.
Hey, thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this project? You have to come. No, you have to come up, please. Sorry. Please state your name and your.
Yeah, my name is Ignacio Santo. I have in my home, close the chapter hand. For me, it's okay when he put the dealer and close in my house. For me, it's okay.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor? Anyone who is in opposition?
Good evening, council members. My name is Wesley Woods. I'm a resident of Amherst County, but I am the owner of Sunbeam Park, which Mr. Dawson mentioned previously. My wife and I purchased that building earlier in the year. We've also bought several other properties in that block across from Mr. Dawson's property. We do plan to redevelop that. I don't feel that a used car lot is appropriate for the neighborhood and doesn't fit the fabric of the area. We've recently completed having our property listed with the Department of Historic Resources, and we do plan to do a historic renovation on that project. And I'm not in favor of a used car lot on the adjacent property. Thank you for your consideration.
Okay. Anyone else want to speak in opposition? Any voicemails from citizens?
There are none.
Okay. Would you like to issue a rebuttal of any sort?
I would like to say that our only thing we want to do here, we're not changing anything. We just want, we can already do, as a zone B4, we can do auto repair, we can do body shop work, which is allowed in that zoning. So Sunbeam's concerned that it won't be, that's all dirty stuff. The ability to sign a paper and sell a car, it doesn't change anything. We actually want to make it nice. And if all we want to do is sell cars, that's not dirty work. And what it is in B4, that is nothing but dirty work. We want pretty cars sitting out there with buyer guides on them. And the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board has strict requirements. And that's why we're here, because it has to be zoned properly and it has to be ran properly, or they will shut you down. And that's about the state. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The public hearing is now closed and the matter rests with council.
Make a motion for approval.
Second.
Okay, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, as I looked at this, and as I look at the property that's right across the street from the water tower, I look at the fact that this used to be ability to sell cars, even as I think recent as 2 years ago, because of grandfathering and the older gentleman quit selling cars. But it had been grandfathered. There's other properties that they had sold cars, and they sold them wonderfully. You know, it is an improvement, I believe, to the neighborhood. It is a thing that will say, let's employ people. Let's meet a need that is there. Hire people. Sell them a good product. And with that, when I'm looking at this property, because it's already set up and looking like it's an auto dealership, a small auto dealership. It's not like some of those that we've lost the tax revenue to that are out in the county with big, humongous lots. I'm thankful that somebody's willing to come on Park Avenue, invest money, hire people, pay taxes, and he's not asking for money. All he's asking for us to do is hit a button that says yes, and let's let him proceed with the American dream of starting a business that is meeting a need that customers have. So I do hope we can approve this.
Vice Feraldi.
And feel free to stay seated if you'd like. Could you speak to a little bit about the engagement that I'm reading through and the nature of the conversation with the Planning Commission as to the merit behind recommending it for denial?
Sure. So Planning Commission did give this a good bit of discussion. So there was a lot of conversation about the previous impacts that some of these more intense commercial uses had. The Fifth Street plan is pretty specific on getting away from those uses. It noted that non-conforming situations would be allowed to stay, but over time they should transform to kind of a more urban and neighborhood serving type use. As far as, sorry, lost my train of thought a bit there. It noted that those non-conforming uses were welcome to stay, but later in the plan noted that the B5 zoning was really not conducive to the type of redevelopment that the neighborhood wanted to see on Fifth Street. So that was the discussion with Planning Commission. There was some discussion about seeing some potential in this area as kind of a corridor into downtown and what it could be, and they felt like a step in the B5 would open it to uses that just aren't really compatible with that. There are uses in B5 that, aside from the one the petitioner wants to do, commercial heavy equipment rental lumberyard, solid waste collection, towing yards, vehicle rentals, that just given the context of the surrounding neighborhood, don't make a lot of sense.
I'm going to pull Councilman Helgeson here. Would a CUP be better appropriate to facilitate this, considering future uses was the primary concern of the Planning Commission?
So no, a CUP is not an option in the B4 district for auto sales. The light auto and heavy auto are not, Mr. Dawson mentioned that those uses could continue, and they could as non-conforming uses, but they're also not allowed in B4 by right. Those are allowed by CUP, but auto sales is not.
Okay. So if you were to, and I understand the nature of asking you to do this, so if you were to speak on behalf of the Planning Commission as to the justification, it was more based on this is what the planning has indicated down the line, not opposing specifically the rezoning of this project as it stands. It's more, this is what the planning has been for this area down the line, 10, 15 years. Would that be a fair assessment?
To me, they're not mutually exclusive, so I don't mean to be obtuse and skirt the question, but I think Planning Commission recognized that rezoning for this particular use would potentially set the stage for future similar rezonings, which would not be in line with that vision. The Fifth Street corridor has come a long way, and I think they want to see that continue.
Final question would be, has the city staff or other developers that we know of expressed interest in doing anything else with this property?
Not to my knowledge, not this particular one.
Okay. The way I do see it is, to my colleagues, I do see it more as this was the vision for this particular piece of property and the use of it, tying it to the plan for the area that's very standard in municipal operation, and yet I do see this as an instance where the Planning Commission likely operated in what their task is to do, is to vet and utilize the resources they have and make a decision. This would be a circumstance where I think we, as a council, should override and say this is an opportunity for a business to come in and get to work and really bring a bit of revitalization opportunity for a fresh look, a fresh business to come in and do some work in a corridor. I think it stands merit, so I would ask my colleagues to support it.
I have a question. You said that the you referenced what the neighborhood wanted to see. It was against what the neighborhood wanted to see. Were there conversations with community members?
So that was based on the planning of the public outreach that went into the 2006 plan to form that vision.
Okay. Any other discussion or question? Councilman Mischens?
I mean, I think this is a great idea, and I think of Adams Motor Company back in the day on Fifth Street was a mecca of a car dealership right there. There's a history of this kind of business in that corridor on Fifth Street, and I'm trying to think, and you may know this, or the petitioner may know this, where is the closest car dealership to that? Is there anything even remotely nearby, or is this kind of?
I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't think there is. I can't think that there's anything close by, and if we're able to get somebody in there that's going to run a good business and employ people and sell a product that is a need for a dense part of the community, I think that's a smart move and a smart decision.
Councilman Taylor?
I drive past that lot. It looked like you had cleaned it up. It was a mess. And you took your time to clean it up, make it look better. So I'm going to be inclined to agree with you.
Councilman Dolan?
So it's my understanding that it's zoned currently where you could have an auto body shop? Okay. I would certainly prefer an auto dealer than an auto body shop in my neighborhood.
Dr. Wilder?
You have something to say?
I didn't know if that was a question. Councilmember Dolan.
Yeah.
The light auto and heavy auto uses are currently allowed by conditional use permit in the B4 district. So it's not by right, but in this case, it is allowed because previously that is a non-conforming or grandfathered use.
Dr. Wilder?
I'm a little somewhat torn because I see how the transition of the neighborhood is going with the plan. So certain persons who may have bought property are expecting things not to happen, going more so toward the neighborhood plan, right? So when persons are coming into that neighborhood, do they understand what the zoning requirements are?
I believe there was a discussion, and I don't want to speak for Mr. Dawson or his representative. I believe there was a discussion about the uses that would be allowed. I'm not sure when the property actually transferred. Was that to your knowledge?
'Cause I remember we had a similar property right around the corner that I think we did not, I believe. I think it was an auto shop as well. So I'm a little torn. I think, do you remember that case? It was on the
I
corner.
do, the one on Fifth Street?
Yes.
Yes.
Was that denied?
They did not, I don't believe they submitted, I believe that gentleman has spoken to council before, but I don't believe they've submitted a rezoning application.
Okay, thank you. Last question, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Have you heard from any other neighbors about the property other than the one gentleman here? Have you heard any more comments from the other neighbors?
We have not received calls or emails about it, no.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm torn as well because I love what we're seeing coming along Fifth Street, and I think I want to respect the concept of what's happening there, and I also want to hear, the fellow business person who's, next to it, the owner of Sunbeam. I forgot your name, sir. Wesley. So I want to respect what your thoughts and concerns are too. I think, what I would offer here is, I agree with offering a service and a need to the city, to that location, and wanting to offer employment. So I would just say that please, be mindful of that part of our city and making it sounds like you've cleaned it up, and just honoring our citizens who live in that part of the city, making them be proud of the business that you put there, and be a reflection of what we're trying to continue to do in that part of the city, so that they're proud of the business that you're bringing to the city, because we want to be proud of it for you too. So with that said, let's go ahead and vote.
The motion passes 7-0.
All right, our next section is public comment. During public comment, individual speakers have 3 minutes to speak, and those representing a group have 5 minutes to speak. Typically, City Council takes comments made during the public comments section of the agenda under advisement and may refer concerns to the city manager for follow-up. Citizens often express conflicting and diverse positions regarding specific issues under consideration. To encourage citizen participation and to avoid intimidation to persons who may express sometimes unpopular opinions, applause, cheers, or jeers from the audience are not permitted. When appearing before City Council, citizens may not engage in behavior that intimidates or insults others, engage in disruptive behavior, use profanity or vulgar language, promote private business ventures, or campaign for office. We will now hear from a citizen regarding building a teen social lounge. Cherie Kemper, please restate your name and locality of residence.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cherie Kemper, and what I am proposing to City Council, just really the city of Lynchburg, is to have a teen social lounge. Our youth, people complain they're doing this, they're doing that, but it's really nothing for them to do in the city. We have the Boys and Girls Club, and we have community centers, but that is more so for the younger kids. Once the kids reach about 14 or 15, they feel like they're too big to be in those centers. So I'm asking the city to possibly open up a lounge just for teenagers, 13, to 19. We do have people who graduate, later. Give them something to do after school on the weekend, and not a place where they have to bring their little brother or sister with them. It is strictly 13 and up. They can come there, it could be a section for them to do their TikTok, their Snapchats. They can get help with their schoolwork. They have computers, lounge set up where they can do their research, print out their paper. For those who don't want to go to the library is already closed. And I think it'd be a good thing for our city. Like I said, a lot of people complain about the youth. I think the curfew has helped a lot because honestly, after a certain time of night, you're under a certain age, there's no reason for you to be outside anyway. You should have school the next day. And I've talked to some teenagers, and I've talked to, I guess you can say, other community citizens, and we agree that something does need to be done. And I think that if we can get a center for our teens somewhere that's either on the bus line, somewhere maybe they can even just walk to after school, a place that they can call their own. When we were younger, I graduated in 2000 from EC Glass. We had more stuff in the city to do for teenagers than what we do now. So I think this would be a great thing. I know a lot of people that are willing to help, volunteer their time, just to have something for our children going forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll now hear from a citizen regarding sexual assault is underreported. There are false claims of sexual assault. Mr. Christopher White, please restate your name and locality of residence. Mr. White? Okay, moving on. We hear from a citizen regarding the school board. Vicente Gonzalez, please restate your name and locality of residence.
Do I get 5 minutes because I'm representing a group? Latin American Community Center. It was in my email.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Vicente Gonzalez. First, I wanted to say that it's extremely inappropriate to begin a city council meeting with an opening prayer. It violates the Constitution and serves no practical purpose. We don't need city council members to reflect on religious dogma in the process of enacting policy. Secondly, I wanted to address what's happening with our school board and the rejection of the $10,000 grant from the It Gets Better campaign. There is a lot of very real misinformation being spread by members of the school board, city council, and fellow citizens. The It Gets Better campaign is a suicide prevention campaign. Queer and LGBTQ youth are 4 times more likely to commit suicide compared to their peers. In a study conducted by the Trevor Project in 2022, 45% of LGBTQ youth seriously considered attempting suicide in the past year. This is a very real epidemic in our community, and our students at EC Glass took action to address this issue. Marty Misjun stated that the It Gets Better organization promotes porn literacy and group masturbation. That is a lie. Leticia Lowry said that students would be required to watch videos in order to enter the safe space. That was a lie. There is so much discourse on why to reject a grant from a suicide prevention organization because of prejudiced views on sexuality and gender identity, but no one has any problem in associating with an organization such as Liberty University, which has been investigated by the U.S. Department of Education for systemically covering up reports of rape and sexual assaults. Also, school board member Christian DePaul closed the meeting by saying, "We might be providing a disservice to these young people as they're coming up by having them think that, if you just whine and cry enough, it's going to make a difference. We need to be an example. That's going to be a lot better than just saying, yeah, you're a victim." That's absolutely despicable. This is a response to students talking about suicide prevention. The whining and crying that Christian DePaul is referring to is students advocating, organizing, becoming activists, and demonstrating themselves as outstanding citizens. Is activism and advocacy a form of whining and crying to Christian DePaul? Does he use such language when referring to the civil rights movement, women's movements, and other forms of social justice movements? Lastly, I want to address the ridiculous and terrifying letter to the city attorney from Marty Misjun regarding sexually charged and adult-themed performances. Although it doesn't state it explicitly, The language used in this ordinance mirrors language in anti-drag bills drafted across the country. This is a clear attempt to criminalize drag shows, queer spaces, and queer people. There is so much to unpack in this letter, but let's first look at how do you intend to define sexually charged or adult-themed performances? How would one define vice or immorality? This type of ordinance would inadvertently affect not only drag shows, but other forms of artistic expression. Drag is not inherently sexual. It is an art form and a lifeline to a community under attack. Also, this is just a blatant violation of free speech. I would like to point out that this exact law was passed and struck down by a federal court in both Tennessee and Florida, not even a few months ago, as it was deemed unconstitutional. I urge the City Council to deny moving forward with the creation of this ordinance, if not for the goodwill of a free, healthy society, but at the possibility of a very lengthy lawsuit. Thank you for letting me speak today.
Thank you. We will now hear from a citizen regarding the conduct of Councilman Mischins. Please, Kelsey Moleseed, please restate your name and locality of residence.
Hi, I'm Kelsey. I live in Ward 3. A little over a week ago, I pointed out that the language that Councilman Mischins used in one of his online posts was, once again, divisive and harmful, and he responded really, really quickly by saying, quote, "Haven't you been attacking people's families for years?" I was really baffled by that comment because, no, I have not ever attacked anyone's family. I have never mentioned anything about your family. But after a few more vague comments from him, I realized that what he was doing was trying to avoid public criticism by hiding behind his family. If a taxpayer says that he is not suited for his taxpayer-funded role, it's not beneath him to twist that into an accusation of going after his livelihood and thereby attacking his family. Councilman, this is not about anyone having a personal vendetta against your family or not wanting you to have any income. In the future, if you were to find a successful, high-paying career that is more suited to the person that you are, then I would say more power to you. I would guess that public comment probably wouldn't follow you into the private sector, for instance. But your insistence on demonizing anyone who disagrees with you to the point of casting wild accusations against members of the public, that is the very reason why members of the public will continue to demand your expulsion from council. You can say whatever you want about me, but as long as you are in a role where you have opened yourself up to public comment, then the public is going to comment. And so as long as you spend your time in that role sowing division and insulting people, then that is what the public is going to comment about. To the rest of council, after that weird accusation, I received a lot of messages from other citizens. Some of them were friends and some were people I didn't even know, expressing that they were appalled at how he interacted with me. Some have even advised in this and other contexts that I be careful interacting with him, indicating to me that some members of our community are actually afraid of his penchant for retaliation. And to their point, it appears that he does keep note of the names of people who complain against him. If public fear isn't enough cause to remove someone from council, then I don't know what is. I am urging you to expel him in whatever ways are legally allowed so that you can get back to what matters and focus on the needs of this city. Thank you and good luck to you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Ed McCann from the Kiwanis Club.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening, particularly Councilman Taylor for bringing that up. My name is Ed McCann, and I reside in the city of Lynchburg. And I'm here tonight representing the Centennial Committee of the Kiwanis Club of Lynchburg to speak in support of the full funding of the Riverfront Park Improvements Project. Our club's mission statement envisions our club improving the world one child and one community at a time. Toward that end, we have been serving children and the Lynchburg community for over 100 years. And the playground we have planned for Riverfront Park is intended as a gift to the children of the Lynchburg and the community. The downtown neighborhood is considered by many as the economic, social, and cultural hub of the entire Central Virginia area. In recognizing the importance of maintaining this vibrant core, the city undertook a process to update its 2000 downtown master plan that involved numerous citizen input opportunities, including 5 listening sessions, 12 pop-up events around the city, and a 3-day workshop. Over 900 responses were received from citizens. As a result, the 2040 Downtown Master Plan was adopted by City Council in 2018. The plan recognizes one recommendation stemming from citizens' comments, which our club plans to fulfill: construct a kids' playground. Following up on the recommendation, our club adopted as its centennial project a modern, accessible playground to be located in Riverfront Park. Since late 2018, we met over a period of months with staff from the city's Parks and Recreation and Public Works departments, identified a specific site, solicited competitive proposals for playground equipment, and selected a vendor and a design. At the same time, we initiated a fundraising program to raise the necessary funds to pay for the equipment. To date, we have raised over $150,000 from the generous people of Lynchburg, the Kiwanis Capital District Foundation, the Greater Lynchburg Community Foundation, and the Morning Rotary Club. Members of our club intend to construct the playground under the supervision of the vendor and city staff. The playground will be the only modern ADA-compliant outdoor recreation facility in the downtown area for children ages 5 to 12. We believe that the playground's unique design features, along with the proposed amphitheater at the opposite end of the park, will serve as focal points for visitors and Lynchburg citizens. We request that City Council support the full funding for the Riverfront Park improvements and accept our club's contribution for the Kiwanis Playground. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll now move on to general business. The next section is general business. This section includes general items of new business. Consideration of introducing a resolution amending the fiscal year 2024 to 2028 capital improvement program and the fiscal year 2024 city capital projects fund budget and appropriating $3 million in funds from the fiscal year 2024 general fund unassigned fund balance to be used for Riverfront Park improvements, the amphitheater. This item was presented to council during our business item briefings on November 28, 2023. May I have a motion?
Before you do that, Mayor, just very briefly, before we cast that, I don't mean to interrupt. It's my understanding, colleagues, that this is actually the last vote that will ever be used on an ancient piece of technology. I just wanted to freaking, these boards go back apparently to the 70s, maybe earlier? 81. So this is the last time they will ever be used. Just wanted to highlight that. It's a bit of history for Lynchburg city government, so by all means.
The motion, thank you. The motion is from Councilman Dolan.
Took the wind right out of my sails, but I motion to approve.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Councilman Dolan, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah, yes, I would. I just really feel that it's so important that we continue development in our city. And it's really essential for the growth and vitality of our city. This clearly is an opportunity for an investment that will serve all of our citizens and support our businesses and our families, not to mention the thousands of tourists that will choose to come to our city in lieu of other venues because of the attractions that we offer. And this really offers great potential for our city. The opportunity to host thousands of events will bring in regional visitors as well as support entertainment options for our younger folks. And we all talk about that. Our average age is 28.5 or somewhere in there. So what a fantastic cultural opportunity for these kids. And, you know, so we can invite our young people to stay here instead of getting in their cars and going to other cities to find entertainment. And there is a direct economic impact that will benefit our local economy, obviously with regional visitors, our hotels, our restaurants, advertising, marketing, job opportunities, management opportunities, all these things the amphitheater will support as they host events. And also our community will be able to use the amphitheater. I think we all know that visitor spending brings in revenue, and that might help replace the lost revenue that we had by our real estate tax cut. You know, our downtown partners, I can tell you, I probably heard from almost everybody that has a business in downtown, at least almost everybody, and they are really encouraging this investment. They feel it is vital to the relevancy of their businesses. So this jewel will really help solidify our businesses that we already have here, so they will stay here and will attract new businesses. Obviously, I really support this. I think this is an opportunity that will serve our city well. And remember, this is a project that is not requiring borrowing. It is one-time money that we can use to enhance this beautiful jewel in our city, our riverfront. And I support this totally.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to your second?
Yes, again, I echo everything Councilman Dolan has stated. It's important for us to have a good quality of life for our citizens of Lynchburg. The downtown is always the mecca of a city you go to. So wherever you're going, you look at the downtown to see what's the attractions are there. How can I support my family to have some recreation for them to do? So it's important for us to continue the revitalization. If you looked at Lynchburg 20 plus years ago, Lynchburg 20 years ago did not look like it looks now. Several people voted against that, but we have seen the economic wealth from Councilmember Carl Hutchinson and versus others, the forefathers, the seeds they have planted downtown. We're reaping the benefits of that now because of the investment that they have made and the city has made over the past 20 plus years, how they have revitalized downtown. Economic development is important. If you come into Lynchburg for a Liberty game, to a bowl game, or whatever the case may be, after that bowl game, you want to go to a restaurant. You want to have entertainment. I'm taking my kids to a bowl game in a couple of weeks. When we go there, we're going to tour the city. We're going to spend funds the same way people come here. They come to activities. They're going to spend funds in a particular location. So it's important for Lynchburg to continue to have attractions that person want to come to, make it a destination site. It's so important for us to have the trails and various other things and the museums we have that when people come to Lynchburg, they say, I love that place. I want to spend more time there. I want to have my family there. So I appreciate the investments that have been made in our city because of what you have done some 20 plus years ago. We have now seen the tax base of downtown increase because of the investments that we have made. And you look at the downtown attractions with the riverfront, with the bright lights that they're doing this past week. It is amazing when you see Lynchburg and the transformation that's happened over the past 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Helgeson?
Thank you. You know, as I look at this project and as I've seen it change and morph over the last couple years, sadly, I've seen the amount go up 67%. I'm very thankful for the Kiwanis Club raising money for the park. And that is something I think we can do. I mean, we can help even augment some of the funds that are needed for that park because I think that makes sense, having that park downtown. But spending the $8 million on this amphitheater, I know it's kind of dissected and says it's only $3 million more. The total project cost $8 million. And I think what could we as a city council, what could our citizens do by helping to lower some of these high taxes that we have in order to actually say, maybe not now, because the prices have soared. Went from $4.5 million to $8 million in just a matter of a year or so. To me, that says, let's hit the pause button. Lots of us, we had a discussion at our council retreat the other day, and a majority was saying that, we need to look out for our taxpayers. We need to, one tax specifically that we didn't even get to really address last year was the car tax. I think if we say no to some spending that's on niceties, not necessities, we can actually lower our car taxes by 15 cents going on and continuing. Not a one-time thing. Because that $8 million, the debt service alone would be $800,000. We heard from our Commissioner of Revenue that says every 1 cent on the cars is 52 cents. $800,000 divided by 52 cents means we can lower our car taxes 4%. And if we can actually begin to rein in some of the things from something that is, again, it's a nicety. but now it is not a necessity. As I see this unpack and I see the costs going up, I was very thankful that a citizen sent to me the economic development report of a similar amphitheater in Charlottesville. That, when you're looking at spending $8 million, the debt service alone is $800,000. Charlottesville, estimated, and a lot of times these economic development studies, they kind of, I think, a little more liberal on the ability to decipher how much revenue is going to actually come in. The one in Charlottesville says about $370,000 a year. When you're spending $800,000 and getting back $370,000, Tulane, I don't think you can run a business like that. Or David, I don't think you can run a business like that. And that's why I think, if this would have been $2 million, I think we could have probably done it. But it's gone up to $8 million. I don't think businesses would invest their money on something that is such a stretch. I can appreciate the fact of how the pictures look beautiful and whatnot, but now is not the time. And so I think what we can do is we can augment some of the funds. I know the Kiwanis Club mentioned they raised $150,000 for the park, and we can actually see how much is needed for that park. Now, that park is a nice amenity that I think is going to be very helpful. It's not going to be the big $8 million for the amphitheater and all the other items. So if we can go forward with the park, with the very generous donations from the Kiwanis Club, plus augmenting if we need to, not spend this $8 million on this full amphitheater, but use it to actually lower our car taxes by 15 cents, I think that's a win. I think we can do that without even batting an eye. And I know several have said, I want us to lower the car tax. I think this is a good thing, and I'll make a substitute motion that we deny the spending of $8 million and instead lower the car taxes by 15 cents. And we can do that in the upcoming budget coming up because we're looking at $800,000 of the debt service. We're looking at $800,000 divided by $52,000 per penny. That's about 15 cents. And we can direct staff to say, let's not spend this on a nicety. Let's look at how we can actually lower the tax burden for our citizens while still taking care of the Kiwanis Park. And I'll make that as a substitute motion.
I'll second. Want to speak to it?
I guess just if I could speak to my motion just really quickly.
Go ahead.
Is obviously, we have a budget coming up, and so with that, staff would have plenty of time to come up within the 2025 budget that they'll be working on, saying, hey, we're not spending this $8 million now. What could we do in order to alleviate the burden from the car tax? And that would come up in the budget. It's not saying we're going to do it tomorrow. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Councilman Smith?
Yeah, I think this is a great proposal. We got a slew of emails today. I think somewhere around 80 emails, I think, from citizens. That were separated them in folders. So I'm very specific on the numbers. I've been separating them all day. Citizens that wanted us to not spend this money, and we're asking for that relief on their tax bill. And as Councilman Helgeson mentioned, we talked about the return on investment, and I looked it up while we were sitting right here on the economic impact report from Charlottesville, right? And the total operating tax revenue in the report period was about $76,500 plus another $296,000 in visitor spending revenue. That's about $372,400. It would take 21 and a half years on those revenue streams to realize the cost. The cost has more than doubled on this project to pay it off. And I don't even know if we're even factoring in that there's going to be some operating costs on the city government we discussed to actually maintain and operate this project. I think that there's absolutely a need to put a park or playground type feature down there. I think that would be a great thing to have, and I will be an absolute champion to make sure that that happens. I think that that is important. I think it's important for our downtown community. You know, just the number of people that are moving into all the different residential spaces downtown that have children and have young children. I think that would be just tremendous to give them somewhere that they could walk to play. I think that that's great. You know, and just to kind of make it more simple to understand, what Councilman Helgeson's proposal does is it frees up $8 million. So that money can be used to pay off existing debt, okay? So yes, it's correct. We are not borrowing money for the amphitheater. But if we were to do the proposal that Councilman Helgeson offered in his substitute motion, what we're doing is we're freeing up money that we could spend, that we're planning on spending to pay off existing debt, which is where you realize that $800,000 annual decrease in the ongoing budget for the city. So if we decrease that $800,000 in spending, that's every year from debt service, then we're able to lower the car tax in the upcoming budget year. I think this is a great thing. There's a lot of people that have asked for relief from car tax, and one of the emails I read earlier today, even Hopewell, Virginia, I believe has eliminated their car tax, right? And I think, Mr. Benda, do you remember when we had the legacy conversation? What did I tell you I wanted my legacy on city council to be?
There were a myriad of things, but you're gonna have to remind me of the particular.
The number one was, let's get rid of the car tax in Lynchburg, Virginia. That was the first thing I told you, right? Let's eliminate it altogether. So, you buy an automobile. Why do you have to pay taxes to the government to continue to own it every year, right? So, I think this is a great substitute motion. I fully support it. Now's not the time to spend on things that aren't necessary, and I think that we can put more money back in our citizens' pockets with this proposal.
Vice Mayor Feraldi?
Ms. Witt, can we do that? I've seen that look before.
So there can't be a direct correlation to reducing the taxes based on reducing debt service. Our debt service is based on bond offerings that have already been completed, so the debt schedule has already been set. So there's no way to reduce debt service in the 2025 budget, okay? So this is a cash-funded project, so technically there is no debt service to free up. Now, should you take that $8 million and put it on a different project so that you're not borrowing for an additional project, it would reduce the debt service for that project, but it's not going to reduce your overall debt service because you're still going to have to do bond offerings for your mandatory transportation projects and things like that. So there can't be a reduction in debt service because that is set based on our previous borrowings, at least for 24 and 25.
So if I may, Uncle, to make it simple as articulated by my colleague, the debt service has already been issued. Correct. And it doesn't come back.
Correct. You can't take this cash and reduce a bond offering that's already been completed.
So the simple answer, although it's very well presented, is no.
Correct.
Okay. If council wanted to do this, not unlike what had the big back and forth earlier this year about the real estate rate, it should be done within the fiscal year initially, correct?
Yeah, it needs to be done in the budget process, and you would need to find a way to replace the recurring revenue that we receive for personal property tax.
So in other words, I'll say this, I don't have any further questions, but thank you. If council wanted to do this, this motion doesn't achieve that end. So I share with you the desire. I fully agree with Councilmember Missions. Make sure you got that, by the way. This tax is the dumbest thing in the entire world. I cannot stand it. Where's George Allen? I want to get rid of it. Where's all the Republican governors in years past? This thing needs to go. It's an abomination. I can't, oof, nothing gets under my skin more than this. But I digress. This motion doesn't achieve the end. And I'm with you. I want to get rid of it. I want to lower it. I've been saying since earlier this year that it should have been lowered. Council thought otherwise at the time. There was even a comment initially made that we shouldn't touch the car tax for 5 years. So I'm a little bit intrigued to see the shift now at this stage in the game. It doesn't, I don't quite understand why there's a shift now as opposed to earlier this year. But needless to say, it's not that simple. The debt has already been issued. We're responsible for the debt that we've already spent. We have to pay, even if we reduce the debt servicing by $3 million, you still have to pay what we've put on the credit card, even though it's been spent. I mean, it seems complicated, but it is fairly simple. So I commit to work with my colleagues either through the Finance Committee or on the full council. Like if there's a desire to lower the car tax, I'm on board. I've brought proposals before earlier this year. It's a hidden tab on my website, but you can still access my proposal from February. I said we should lower it by more than 15 cents if memory serves. So needless to say, council should reject this and take up the matter of the amphitheater for it or against it. And I don't want anyone to get it twisted that by voting against this, Feraldi doesn't want to lower the thing. I've been saying it since I became a member of council that it should be lowered, but this doesn't do that. And so I want us to be very, very clear about what we're talking about here. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the $4.7 million also coming up in January for tax relief that is slated and docketed to be voted on. And I imagine it'll pass with flying colors. So I have plenty more notes here, but I think I've addressed it, and I would ask my colleagues to move on.
Councilman Dolan?
Well, really, Ms. Witt answered the question that I was really going to propose to talk about, but as long as I have the floor, there were 38 emails, all of which were solicited by one of our council members. I did count them, by the way.
I'll print them out.
Thank you.
Well, excuse me. Dr. Wilder, do you have a comment?
No.
Councilman Taylor, do you have anything to say? Go ahead.
Yes. I know a developer downtown here. He's bought up a bunch of property. He's got 300 units going in, apartments. And those 300 apartments going to generate revenue. And he's looking for a place to entertain the people that move into his properties. And he's got the Rivermont project. When you cross the Rivermont Bridge, all those properties belong to this developer. And he's generating income for the city daily. We all do. I took a look at, what is that, John Paul Jones Arena in Charlottesville. See, they got an amphitheater in Charlottesville, and then they got John Paul Jones Arena. So the amphitheater is going to generate less income because you got that big arena up there that's pulling in $114 million a year. That's the physical impact, economical impact that it has on that city. $114 million a year. John Paul Jones Arena, look it up. So no wonder the smaller arena is making less money. But we don't have that problem here. All we're going to have is one. the competition is not going to be that great. So I moved to let the Kiwanis Club and the City of Lynchburg have their arena.
Okay, well, so the motion on the floor is a substitute motion to deny spending the money and to instead lower taxes. So let's vote on the substitute motion, please. Well, you've already spoken. They didn't speak a couple times. Everybody spoke one time.
She spoke a couple times.
I have her down speaking one time on
So
your
if I may.
substitute motion, so I'd like to call the vote.
So if I may, Councilmember for Aldi had mentioned several
The
things
substitute motion, sir.
that were wrong.
Council.
That I'd like to correct.
Councilman Helgeson, you've spoken. Everybody's had a turn.
Point of order.
What's the point of order?
Point of order is that Vice Mayor Feraldi got an opportunity to ask staff some questions, and Councilmember Helgeson did not get a chance to rebut the questions to staff. I think it would be appropriate and fair for Councilmember Helgeson to also have the opportunity to ask those questions.
So, under our rules of procedure, typically what is done is, once everyone has had a chance to speak on a motion on the floor and a period of 30 minutes has passed, any member can call for the question or to call for the vote. Now, certainly it's up to that is a decision left to the mayor. Once the vote has been called, in this circumstance, the mayor has called for the vote. Certainly, if there's new or additional information that was presented that wasn't addressed, council could discuss that as part of it, but it's ultimately the decision of the mayor to make a call.
I'd like to call the vote, please.
And there was new information.
Neil? I'd like to appeal the mayor's decision to call the vote. I think that it would be appropriate and prudent for us to get all the information. If Councilmember Helgeson heard information that he felt was false, I think he should have an opportunity.
I'll
to
withdraw.
talk to us.
Councilman Helgeson, go ahead.
Good. Thank you, Madam Mayor. You know, and again, I appreciate Councilmember Wilder's prayer this morning, talking about being collegial and kind. And just before we spend $8 million, I think it's wise and prudent to kind of lay the things out there. We have bans. We have lots of things that are funding capital projects with debt. We're not saying that, oh, you just lower it, this one immediately. But what happens when you spend the $8 million? What do you have? You have to then borrow money, as she'd mentioned, next year for some of those projects. So the $8 million of spending on an amphitheater is by no means in any facet whatsoever going to help you lower the real estate or the car taxes. If we don't spend the money, that'll then free up the ability to begin to think logically, rationally, and with a prudence for our taxpayers to say, maybe we can lower it. We can target the debt service. What we can do is not issue those new debt with bans. Even if we don't spend the money, we're earning interest. Those of us that are on the Finance Committee, you've seen how the interest is earned and accruing every month, a whole lot more, because you have, T-bills that are paying tremendous amount of interest right now that we could be earning, which is going to help offset the tax burden on our taxpayers. When I look at this project, and money is fungible, we all know that, we can lower the debt service by paying down some debt. We can keep the money, not issue new debt with new bans. We can actually keep that money and earn interest on it that we now will help offset and augment our budget for next year. All of these things do work. It's, when we look at the finances of the city, it's absolutely doable. I said let's not do it today. I'm not saying we're refunding some bonds that are out there. I'm not suggesting that. These are things that we can now say, let's stop the spending on a nicety so we can lower the tax burdens for our citizens. Plenty of time, as Ms. Witt stated, that you can come up with that in the budget coming up this next few months. Heard lots of people said, hey, let's try to lower the car taxes. Well, here's a proposal, and the choice is clear. If you spend the money on a nicety, you don't have that money to lower the tax burden on our citizen. That's why I packaged it together, so we can say if we spend that money, there is absolutely no ability to lower the taxes. I think the predominant element is to lower the tax burden on our citizens. I know several got elected for that exact message, telling the citizens, and the citizens came out and said, lower the tax burden. Just 2 weeks ago, Chris mentioned in our retreat that let's figure out a way that we can lower the car taxes. Great. Here's at least a possibility. You may not like it exactly. I totally get it. Let's at least table the spending. Let's at least not just spend $8 million, because what's going to happen is we're going to spend this $8 million. We're then going to generate possibly, if we can do as well as Charlottesville, $370,000 a year. Then you have expenses such as the toilets, such as the lawn, such as the maintenance, all the things that you're going to have to do down there. We're going to be losing more money, and we're definitely not going to be able to lower our taxes. The difference between the auditorium versus a pavilion, night and day difference. So this again is saying, do we want to, at this point in time when the price has almost doubled, went from $4.5 million to $8 million, do we want to spend that money? Let's at least hold the phone on this. You may not want to say exactly how you want to lower the tax rate, but at least defer the spending until we can actually wrestle with it. But I hope we can lower the spending and lower taxes simultaneously. And I am done. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for my ability to address the inconsistencies.
You are welcome. Vice Mayor Feraldi.
You know, I heard a lot of I can appreciate. Here's what I don't appreciate. I don't appreciate politicians changing the tune simply to score political points. I've been saying this for 3.5 years. I have on record earlier this year, Councilmember Helgeson, Madam Mayor, saying, quote, we should not touch this tax for 5 years, end quote. If we need to go back and pull the record, we can. I don't appreciate fellow colleagues manipulating the facts to achieve a political gain. We were just told by the chief financial officer in this city, who's been doing this longer than any of us can imagine, laboring over these numbers year in and year out, which I have publicly disagreed with on many occasions, say that this doesn't achieve the end by which what you're trying to do. It doesn't work. And so continuing to belabor the fact to set us up to then go out to that very same list that received a massive email blast saying, you know, tell City Hall to do this when it can't be done, I don't know what to tell you. If you have an alternative, bring it forward. You mentioned that let's not spend the money, let's table spending the money, but that wasn't your motion. So the motion wasn't to table, it was to do something that we can't do. And then also, for my time on council, there's been complete rejection by 2 different political majorities to reduce the very tax we're talking about. Disingenuous.
Okay, with that said, so everybody's clear. I'm going to call the question, and we're going to vote on the substitute motion, which is to deny the spending on the amphitheater. Go ahead and vote, please. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Wait, reset it, please, Alicia.
Yeah, read that again.
Go ahead.
Okay. The substitute motion is to deny spending on the amphitheater. So, to deny. So the motion is to deny spending. So if you support denying the spending.
That's the green button.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you deny, you would say yes. If you don't want to deny it, say no.
The motion fails 2-5.
Okay, so now we go back to the original motion, which is to support appropriating $3 million in funds from the fiscal year 2024 general fund, unassigned fund balance to be used for the riverfront park improvements, which was motioned by Councilwoman Dolan and seconded by Dr. Wilder. We can then continue any discussion on that motion. Does anybody have any additional comments?
Just one that the Vice Mayor mentioned as far as the table. So I think where you can come up with, rather than spending it, I think it would be prudent to table. I think it would be prudent to table this to actually see why the prices went up 67%. Is there something we can do? So I would suggest we table this until our next work session.
He can't make another substitute motion.
Somebody else can, though, can't they?
There cannot be only 2 amendments to a motion can be made, and only 1 substitute motion can be made. It's strictly up or down at this point on this one motion.
Sorry.
If I may, Madam Mayor?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Procedurally, only 1 substitute can be made to any motion, and 2 amendments to a motion can be made prior to a substitute. How's that for political parliamentary doublespeak? But the answer is no. It
Correct.
can't happen.
So we're staying with this motion. Council missions.
Ms. Witt, if I could just ask you some questions before I make this vote. So there are other ways that we borrow money other than the bonds, correct? Lines of credit, things like that, right? If you could just kind of speak to that.
Normally, we would do a line of credit first, and then we permanently finance that. This last bond issue, we permanently financed the line of credit, and then we borrowed additional funds to fully fund the police department. So we've already borrowed everything we need for the police department when we did the last bond issue.
So if we didn't spend $8 million today, right, we could apply that money instead of borrowing through lines of credit or other options or other short-term options in the upcoming fiscal year. Is that correct?
To a different project, yes,
Correct. So,
because it's one-time money.
yep. So we would be able to apply that, which would then also reduce interest we'd be paying on lines of credit, correct?
Depending on how you did it. It would reduce your borrowing for that cost, for that project, because you're now not just borrowing for it, you're applying some cash. So it would reduce it for that project. But in the big scheme of things, because we have so many transportation projects like that, you're actually just creating more capacity to do your transportation projects.
But like you said, typically we get those lines of credit for the short-term financing initially, right? And then we wrap that up into a bond anticipation note, something like that, right? To
Yeah,
then get the
so
permanent financing.
depending on how you applied that $8 million, it could reduce interest on that line of credit for a period of time.
And then potentially prevent you from having to borrow more on a bond down the road once you transition to that permanent financing, correct?
As many projects as we have need for transportation especially, it just really is going to create capacity.
Okay.
It won't reduce debt service
Thank you.
technically.
Thank you. So, you know, based on that information, I just can't support spending that kind of money. You know, we heard from tons of citizens today, and you know what? If people are trying to give me a hard time for soliciting emails from citizens, so be it. But I love giving citizens in our city a voice. And I'm okay with that. So, you know, giving our citizens a voice, hearing their voice, saying don't spend that money, right? Because the reality is what's happening is we've got a project downtown that we're getting ready to spend $8 million of cash on if it gets approved. That cash comes from our citizens all over the city. And they're having a hard time right now. You know, they want their taxes reduced. Their grocery bills are high. Their fuel bills are high. We're getting ready to head into the winter months where their electric bills are going to surge. We just found out, I think AEP's the average increase on a household is going to be another $30 a month on their electric bill, right? Anything that we can do to offset those increased costs for our citizens, we should be doing. Now's not the time to be spending excess money that we don't need to spend on something that's, you know, nice. Sure. It would be great to have that feature downtown. The businesses would love to have that downtown, right? But I cannot put that on the backs of our citizens, because what we're going to do is we're going to pay $8 million in cash for this. The return on investment is not going to be good, right? We've got the numbers from the Charlottesville report. Mr. Taylor, I appreciate your comments earlier, but we do have an arena in Lynchburg. It's called the Liberty Arena. We also have the Vine Center. We also have the Williams Stadium, and they all bring in a significant economic impact into our city that didn't cost our taxpayers a single penny, not one, right? So I can't take money from citizens all over this city just to increase economic activity for one area of the city. Can't do it. So I will not be voting to approve this, and that's where I'm at.
Vice Mayor Feraldi.
Student loans. Everyone's like, wait a minute, where's he going with this? Student loans are one of the biggest issues for people my age in the United States. And unfortunately, this won't be welcomed by some, but it is the truth. The boom that my alma mater felt in construction, spending, now to the $1 billion of economic impact that they make in our community, is solely tied to taxpayer incentivized student debt. To say our taxpayers didn't spur the economic growth, in this case, I would contend is actually grossly inaccurate because of the sheer volume of student debt that pours cash into Liberty University, that feeds into our economy, that does invert, drive inflation, all that stuff. I'm not saying it's appropriate, but it is the fact. Let's be honest. Also, I'd like to highlight this. If you go to the website, I might just make the link public again, just for the heck of it. Guess who also proposed removing the small tax on our electricity and our gas? Yours truly. And yet, council thought otherwise. I don't want to hear that prices are too high, we shouldn't be reducing this. If there's no desire to lower the meals tax, we heard at our council budget retreat that we shouldn't touch consumer taxes. We shouldn't lower the meals tax, we shouldn't lower the car tax, or now we should because it's politically convenient. And now the electricity bills are too high. Literally every single tax that I have articulated that we should touch and reduce is now being spun to the voters that were these bastions for reducing the tax burden in our city. Finally, I've done the same tactics. I've sent emails out, calls to action, rezonings in Ward 4, taxes in the past. Mayor Dolan has criticized me in the past in the manner in which I've done them. Maybe they were too curt, maybe they weren't. It's in the past. So I've done those tactics before. I'll continue to do them I'll continue to do them myself. However, the email that was sent out to this very curtailed list, to which I'm not on, I was actually removed from, was factually inaccurate. The whole articulation of this email was saying that we can take this $3 million and apply it to debt servicing, thus reducing the car tax. And we were just told that can't be done. So let's look at this for what it is. Senator Steve Newman stood before us at our budget retreat, one of the most conservative members to ever walk the political streets of Virginia, said, quote, if you look at what we've done in the Virginia General Assembly, we've used one-time money for capital projects across Virginia. That's exactly what we're doing here. It's exactly what we're talking about doing here. Look, I've articulated in the past, I'm concerned that far too much money, yes, is going downtown. I've said it myself. I've said there's not enough money going into Richland Hills, Old Graves Mill Road, yet this council member has helped articulate that, and sure enough, we got $16 million going to Richland Hills. I'm trying to say that this is a fiscally responsible manner to approach this conversation. If you don't like the project, sure, vote against. But on the basis that it's not fiscally sound or we should reduce the car tax, all of these items, they don't line up, folks. On the basis, on the merits, on the project itself, You have to look at it specifically and individually in that case. The Charlottesville report doesn't even address the fact that Lynchburg has an admissions tax and they don't. All of a sudden, that throws all the numbers off. It's a vastly different demographic. Lynchburg's bigger than Charlottesville. Our MSA is bigger than Charlottesville. There's more people here. There are so many factors to consider that would completely invalidate looking at the Charlottesville report and saying it's going to replicate here in Lynchburg. I've made my case. I'm profoundly frustrated with the manipulation of the facts here. Send emails all you want. Bring folks out and have them engage. I welcome it. But I saw people in this list of folks who were emailing me who I know and I trust and who also know and trust me, and they've been misled. It doesn't work that way.
Okay.
If this is voted down, so obviously it was stated that we can't do an amended motion. The motion on the table now is to spend the $8 million on this project. Once it's voted to spend that $8 million, it's gone, other than we probably have to have 2 readings, right? But if it's voted down today, then that gives the opportunity to come back and figure out something that you like better, a way to lower the tax burden on our citizens by reining in the spending. Is that correct?
So the issue that was raised was that you couldn't do an additional substitute motion.
Yep.
So no motion to amend has been made. There's a limitation as to 2 motions to amend for each motion. The motion that's on the table is to approve an appropriation resolution for the $3 million for the riverfront improvements, the amphitheater. It's not to spend the $8 million. It's an appropriation for purposes of this particular plan and project.
So if it is denied, it could then come up later, before the appropriation?
If it's denied, certainly members who voted for the denial could have it reconsidered, or council as a body, as a majority, could agree to reconsider it, but it would not automatically just come back if council is given direction not to pursue this particular resolution.
But if we vote it down, it won't be appropriated.
That's correct.
Correct. That's what I hope we do.
Okay, so here's the deal. We started talking about this at 8:17. It is 9:02. So we've talked about it and talked about it. So I'm gonna say what I gotta say, and then we're gonna vote, okay? First, we voted for a 22-cent real estate tax cut. So those of us who ran on lowering taxes delivered. I don't want to hear another thing about it. You got it. It's great. We've heard a lot of people that are thrilled about that. So people that want to talk about that we didn't deliver are not telling the truth. Second, we also waived trash fees and vehicle registration fees. People are thrilled about that. We delivered on that. We are about to deliver $4.7 million of that again in January. So that's going to be another great thing for our city. So we're continuing to deliver on that. So nobody has lied about any promises in that category. Also, to Vice Mayor Faraldi's point, emails that were sent out today were misleading. You've heard from our CFO, who again has a lot of experience and has a lot of expertise in her field, who has explained to us at our retreat and again tonight thoroughly, it can't be done. I want everybody to hear that clearly and share it for the people in the back. Can't be done. Cannot be done. You cannot get tax relief with this money. Sorry. If it could be done, we'd be having a whole different discussion. It can't. So, per the Vice Mayor's recommendation, if we're going to talk about tax relief again, we're going to talk about it in the next budget cycle. If there's a way to do it, we'll talk about it. Can't be done tonight. Cannot be done. Okay. And lastly, I loved what Councilman Helgeson said earlier about how awesome Liberty is. I agree. I have 3 sons that go there. They invest. They're their own little city. Look what's happened over there. They're ginormous. How'd they get ginormous? They've invested in themselves. Look what happens when you invest in yourself. You grow. You get money back from your investment, and you grow. So I think what we do is we copy the Liberty model, and we invest in ourselves. Sound like a plan? Let's vote.
The motion passes 5-2.
Before we adjourn, I would just like to take a moment, per what the Vice Mayor said, to acknowledge an historic event. First installed in 1981, and in case you couldn't tell by the lovely brown and beige-ish colors. As part of the rehabilitation and renovations of City Hall, the voting boards you've seen us cast vote after vote on will be decommissioned after tonight. Built in-house by our talented and resourceful city staff, these voting boards have seen your council cast an estimated 4,000 votes over the course of 42 years and have sadly reached their end of life. When we come back in January, you'll see us utilizing updated voting software that will contribute to a better viewing experience for our citizens and will provide council members with a streamlined approach to how we conduct our meetings. But don't fret. These historic voting boards will forever be immortalized. They will proudly be on display at our Lynchburg Museum located at 901 Court Street. And with that, we are adjourned. Our next regularly scheduled meeting will be held on January 9th, 2024 at 4 p.m. in Council Chamber. And quick reminder that our formal city council meetings will then start at 7 p.m. in the new year. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas.